What's up, bruh?
What up, what up, what up?
What's happening?
Hey, did I need to wear a hat? You niggas is wearing hats.
This is called me having a horrendous hair day.
Hey, listen, all this gray that's happening up in here, shit is bad right now.
Hey, show him your hair, Lee.
Man, shit. At least you still got.
You got that Racer M cup coming in.
Going. I need to know who did LeBron go to.
I gotta flip my hat up too if that's what we doing.
You know what I'm saying? Hey man, shout out to Nile episode. This is my homeboy Lee. He not gonna be on the main conversation, but you know, if we like talk about stuff, he like the research department and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, what's happening, man?
But it's Nile Evans. But yeah, I'm about to get into it.
Okay. Are you recording this or?
Yeah, recording it.
I mean, visually or?
Visually too. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Just want to know.
Yeah. Don't pull your dick out.
I hope not. I hope to not do that because sometimes I do, and I'm just wild like that.
You know, hey man. Hey, well, you know what? At the end of the day, I want you to do you. So I mean, if you want to, go for it. I'm not judging.
I hear you. I hear you.
I got some people that enjoy it. So hey man, first of all, welcome to Urban Legendz podcast, man. We got now Evans. Man, one of the most popping producers in the game for sure. No man, I mean this. Wildin Down, for the love of Ray J, love that girl. Short Circuits, writer for the movie School Days, Soul Train Awards, BET Hip Hop Awards, In the Flow with Afion Crockett. The man been out here getting it. And I want you to know the reason I started this platform, I started it during the quarantine. I finally had time when the quarantine happened because I've been wanting to do this show for 2 years. Right. And I wanted to create a platform where I was able to celebrate people that I consider living legends and making legendary moves out here in their career.
Oh man, I'm honored to be here, man. I'm honored that you consider me for that. I appreciate it.
No, straight up, bro. And I say it and I mean it. So yeah, man. So I just wanted to have this conversation, create a platform for your fans to get to know you. Most of the times people only hear some of their favorite people in sound bites or quick clips, you know, and this is something where we can have like a real conversation and people can really understand your background and your journey and know where you came from and where you at and what you going towards, you know.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, I'm a LA guy. I came up in Los Angeles. You know, I started in television on the Jamie Foxx show, which is my uncle's TV show. He created that show, Bentley Kyle Evans. I did that, and I met Nick through that partnership that Nick and Will Smith actually had,
Well, hold on. I don't want to hop into it all too much too fast. Hold on, wait a minute. So Let's talk about you growing up in LA, man. Because I know probably during the time you was growing up, you probably really saw like the gang violence and the crack epidemic. Talk about that. How was that for you growing up? What did you experience, and how did you navigate that terrain at that time?
Man, it was a scary time in LA. You know, I grew up in the 80s, and I grew up literally on 54th and Wilton, right around the corner from, you know, the Slauson swap meet. You know what I mean? I could walk to the swap meet. You know, riding down Crenshaw and Slauson was my hub. That was the hood's hub right there. And my grandfather actually had his realty office right on West Boulevard and Slauson. So that was my neighborhood, all of South Central. And it was really bad in the 80s. Like, you know, the movies didn't even, you know, Menace to Society and all the movies, Boys in the Hood, they didn't even partially depict what was really going on there. And it was a scary time. And I just remember just, you know, getting bused to school and just it was just scary just getting to school every day. I had to go through 3 different hoods. I lived in a blood neighborhood. I went through 2 different Crip sets. You know, once you get to, you know, Inglewood family, you got all these different, and then people are getting on and off the bus, and you know, you just didn't even know if you was gonna make the school half the time. So it was a really challenging time in the 80s. Growing up. And then, you know, I went to Orville Wright Junior High School. You know, I used my grandfather's address in View Park. And, you know, that's how we did. And, you know, I got a chance to get a great education at Orville Wright, but, you know, the gang violence was so bad that my mother was like, yo, I got to get you out of here. And so she allowed me to stay with my cousin in the Bay Area, in Berkeley. And so, which, it was better, but it was just different. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Fools up there at the time, they didn't have any regard for life. They just didn't have gangs. They were just crazy.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And, you would think that a place like Berkeley High wouldn't have, as much riffraff, but everyone else is using another address to come to a better school. So,
right.
and it was one of the biggest high schools in the nation. Like it's like a college, this high school. And so, luckily, I had getting out of that, like my uncle had taken me to see Do the Right Thing when I was 12. And I was like, yo, I want to be Spike Lee. This is who I want to be. And I never was like, you can ask anybody that knew me, like they'll all tell you, like, he didn't want to do anything but this. And then my uncle was in the business and he started coming out. He was a writer on Martin. And I was like, yo, I could do that. Like I know somebody that does this.
Right.
And I would be interested in the scripts. I wasn't interested in the show. I was just like, yo, man, send me a script from time to time. He was, all right, man, I'll send you something. And I would read that stuff and I would just kind of gain and gather that knowledge. And that kind of built my love for television and film, between Spike Lee and my uncle. I had one person that I could dream about being, and then I had another person who was tangible, who could tell me stories of like how much, things, how things worked in the business. And so it just really gave me a good foundation of learning, what I could do within this business.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So yeah, talk about that, your relationship with Bentley Kyle Evans. Anyone don't know, his uncle prolific when it comes to TV producing. I mean, created the Jamie Foxx show, one of the producers on he was an executive producer, right, on Martin.
Yeah, he was at the end he was the showrunner on Martin, so legendary sitcoms, legendary shows that that he was a part of. And he happens to be my mother's youngest brother.
Right.
And so I had that lead in, and actually his older sister, my Aunt Stacy, she was a writer in the game and doing her thing. And she was a writer producer on the Parkers and a bunch of other shows. So it's like I kind of had a family that had a foot in and were doing things in the industry. So it made it more tangible, and it made it seem like it was more possible for me to be able to actually do something like that.
So what was the first gig that he got you, that you was actually like employed? What you said, it was Martin?
No, it was actually so I couldn't go back to college. I had a hardship that, like, the business affairs called me and says, yo, this tuition didn't happen. You're not playing basketball. This, you can't, I'm in the dorms. This is like the first week of school. They say, yeah, you can't, if you don't take care of this $22,000, you can't start the rest of the semester.
Damn.
So, I called my mother. I knew she couldn't help. And I was just, at the time I called my uncle. I was like, yo, man, they're telling me I can't go back to school. And, luckily he was doing good at the time. And he said, hey man, listen, what are you going to school for? I said, I want to do what you do, and he's like, who are you doing this for? I said, I'm doing this for my mom. He says, I want you to, he said, I'm doing pretty good. So, I can help you finish school, or I can give you a job in your career as a production assistant. I'm not going to start you off as a writer or nothing. You're going to get coffee, you're going to grind, and that's what it's going to be. And he says, call me back in the morning and let me know what you decide. I called him back probably an hour later and was like, I'm coming to LA. I was in the Bay Area in college. And
what school were you attending?
I was at Menlo College. I was playing basketball there.
Okay.
And so I'd stopped playing in my second year, and I was in my third year, and I was like, wasn't really feeling it, but they were charging me. And so, I was like, I can't, I don't want to do this anymore. I really was doing it for my mother, and that's not really what I wanted to do. So, he gave me that option, and I thank him forever for it. And I'm glad that I took the opportunity to go work as a PA on the Jamie Foxx show. And, I met some great people and learned a lot. And I was never any more than a production assistant on the Jamie Foxx show, you know, but I was always in the writer's room, and I know, like, you know, Johnny Mack and all of, you know, all of, you know, Fox's people. And, you know, shout out to him for, you know, definitely shout out to Fox for one, creating the possibility for a young Black showrunner to be able to employ that many people. You know, he had they actually had in the Variety, like, at the time, he was the only show that had an all-Black writing staff.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And like, Black writers, it's hard to get in these rooms. Like, you might, like, I've never been to Blackish, but I'm sure that it's probably 50-50 Black people and the white people,
right?
You know, the writers' room. So I don't know, but I'm speculating because, you know,
you're right, nigger. There's somebody.
That's what, you know,
right.
It is what it is. And,
right.
You know, even on these, you know, the crazy thing is, like, on these white shows, they might have one Black guy there. And then on the Black shows, they got 70%, you know, they got the 3 Black guys that they just want to, tell us what the lingo is.
Yep.
You know, and it sucks, man. But
what he's saying is absolutely correct. I was on a show before, and they had my character doing something that Black people didn't do.
Cool.
And I told the person, like, yo, you know, real talk like that. And I got some pushback from that person. And I was like, yo, you don't even employ any African-American writers. So
Right.
who are you to tell me what a Black person say or do?
Yeah.
Just take my information and use it accordingly.
Take it, go rewrite this, and let's make it happen. You know, I'm number 1 on the call sheet.
Right.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about? I know what the fuck going on around here.
Yeah.
So I didn't know this. So you really want to get into directing? Is directing something that you still want to tap into?
Well, no, not really. You know, it's like, I like directing. I mean, I kind of like that world, but I like writing better. Gotcha. You know, I think that it's easy to articulate your vision through directing, but I actually like writing better. And I had to come to realize that. And I actually like scripted more than I do like unscripted. And I'm on an unscripted show.
Right.
And so, you know, but my real love is like where I started in sitcom and, you know, and writing film stuff. But, you know, it's like, you know, you get older in the game and you start figuring out these other paths, and you start going, maybe I'm in a world that I shouldn't be in. Maybe I should go back to this. And so, I'm kind of in a transition phase where I'm kind of trying to pivot back to the scripted world. I got a chance to do a couple of pilots, with DC and T.I. and,
nice.
James Davis. And I got a bunch of opportunities to make those pivots. So, those things are happening right now. And I think that's important. Growth in this business is, recognizing where you feel the happiest and the strongest and moving towards that.
No, absolutely, man. That's actually a question I was going to get to, which is, given the success of Wildin' Down, how do people treat you in the industry now when you go into these rooms? Is it easier for you to get these meetings? And do you feel like when you're pitching an idea, they're more receptive, or do you still feel like there's some hesitation?
It's still hesitation. It's still, you're rarely pitching to people that look like you. You know what I mean? You're still pitching to somebody who doesn't always understand your experience. And then if you try to pitch something that's, white, they're like, that's our experience. What do you know about it?
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that, getting the title of showrunner, and I've been showrunner for a few seasons, I think that, you can get into the room a little quicker, or at least they say, oh, he does something credible. So yeah, we should bring him in, or we should listen to him, so you get a little bit of that with the title, because there's only a handful of Black showrunners in the business, and you being one of them. And then, the cool thing is, like, people know the show now. The show has been on almost, damn near 20 years. So,
that's amazing.
You know what I mean? We're going into season 16. We started in 2005. And so, people generationally have come up with the show. So either their kids know it or they know it. So, you know, it is good that people recognize the show and they go, oh, I've heard of it. Okay, cool. I'll listen to you. Oh, there's Black people there. Oh, you can help us with the Black guys.
Right.
Can you talk to Justin Hires for us?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You speak jive.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Like, you wear a hat. Come on.
Yeah, you guys do the hat thing, you know, that thing.
That shit is true. The funny thing is people think we bullshitting, but
No, that's real.
Yeah, that shit is very real, and I know all about it so too much. So, you know, it's so crazy. We had Guy Torrey earlier this week.
Great guy.
Yeah, and Guy, he was saying how his first PA job was actually Martin. So
Yeah.
So that's amazing that he did Martin still with
Yeah.
your uncle, and then you did the Jamie Foxx show.
When I first met, he probably doesn't remember this. I remember Sam Art Williams who was one of the showrunners of Martin at the time, was getting a haircut, and Guy was down there as a PA. And I remember because he handed me a flyer for his comedy show.
Wow.
Yeah, man. It's like you see where Guy has come, and you know, you're just so proud to see people who have come up and done big things and are continuing to, you know, like I saw a guy at the Improv like murder. Like the last time I saw him, he murdered. And that was like maybe a couple years ago. And it's just like, just to see him working at that same level is incredible.
Yeah, man, we did a gig. He was headlining at the Tampa Improv maybe like 2 years ago, and that's where I'm from originally. So I hit him up. I did a guest spot with him. You know, we had a good show that night for sure.
Yeah.
So I want to get into your relationship with Nick Cannon, and
Okay.
you know, now I want to see like how did y'all team up? Because y'all like Batman and Superman. You know, you know what I'm saying? Y'all get it in.
I'm definitely Robin. He's Batman.
I'll try to give you some credit. You know what
I don't get slapped around as much.
Oh, okay. Straight up. So how did that relationship begin and develop?
So my Uncle Bentley had a deal at Warner Brothers at the time, and Will Smith came to him and said, I got this kid, man. He's just like me. He's incredible. He's 16, 17 years old. He's a comedian, and let's do something with him. And so they got together, and I met Nick. Nick was like 17, and Nick was, and I was like 21, 22 or something like that. And so we were the two young guys around. And so Nick took to me and was like, oh, you're my big bro.
Right.
Okay, cool. You know, we're gonna hang out and we're gonna do stuff, and you know, and so and Nick was just a ball of energy when he was 17 years old. And so,
and skinny as hell. He was super skinny.
Super skinny. Now he's all buff, male model of the week and
right.
shit. Now it's crazy. But yeah, you know, little frame, but a lot of energy. And you know, he was a writer as well. You know, he was one of the youngest staff writers in history. He wrote On My Cousin Skeeter at like 16 years old, you know.
That's crazy.
And it's nuts. Like this kid is just, you know, he was doing warm up on all that and then became a cast member. And so, you know, Will Smith took to him, and my uncle and him, you know, started working on a project together. They didn't end up finalizing the project together, but it forged a relationship with Nick and I that was a good bond. And I helped him with his first little talk show on Nickelodeon, and you know, we wrote on a few things and always stayed close, you know. And down the line, there was a writer's strike. I was working at an insurance company and doing pilots from time to time, and Nick called me and says, yo, man, I got this. He says, I know you want to be a writer. I know you want to write. He says, but I got this record deal, and I got, you know, and I just did this movie Drumline. It's about to go crazy. And he's like, yo, man, I need somebody to come on the road with me. You think you could do that for me? And I was like, yeah, I mean, you know, but you know how Hollywood is. People be like, yeah, man, you want to do something? And then you don't hear from them, you know?
I know.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, man. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna have my manager call you. And I was like, all right, cool. So, you know, a couple days later, I didn't hear nothing. And then he calls me and says, yo, my manager didn't call you? I said, nah, man, I get it. Literally, that day I got laid off. That same day.
That's crazy.
It was either that same day or the day before I just got laid off. I said, yo, man, nah, he didn't hit me up, man. It's all good, though. And he says, hold on, put him on three-way. I chop it up with the manager. I'm literally on a plane to go meet with Nick the next day, and now I'm his like assistant road manager. You know what I mean? Like taking care of the day-to-day stuff, and you know, sometimes I'm the stylist, sometimes I'm security, sometimes I'm just a little bit of everything.
That's what my homeboy Lee is. That's the same thing.
You need that guy. You need that guy. He's important, but he knew he was like, he knew this isn't what I wanted to do. And he says, you know, here's the deal. Just do this with me for a little while. And I promise you, like, we'll create stuff and we'll do something there. We'll definitely do a TV show together. And I said, all right, bet. So during that time, like, we wrote a movie for Will Smith's company and, you know, and did some development on a couple of other things. And then, you know, maybe like 2 years later, we're working, you know, he's doing TRL, and they bring him in and they're like, yo, man, you're such a good host. Like, we got to figure out what we're going to do with you. And I'm just fly on the wall in the meeting. And he says, all right, cool. So we go back to LA from New York, and Nick calls me in the middle of the night and he says, yo, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do an improv comedy game show. We're going to do Whose Line Is It? Whose Line Is It Anyway? But Black. And I was like, I'm thinking we're going to do a sitcom or some shit. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay. And so he's like, nah, this is what we're going to do. And I was like, all right, cool. And so we wrote it up the next day at Stevie's on Ventura, wrote it up. And, you know, we got a couple other comedians, Chris Spencer, and, you know, to put it on its feet and worked it out. And then we shot that pilot at the Comedy Union. And
Black-owned comedy club in LA.
Yeah, Black-owned comedy club in LA. Shout out to Enz Mitchell.
Yep.
You know, gave us a great opportunity. And we shot that pilot and sent it to MTV, and they were like, yeah, we want to do this. We're going to give you a real budget to do a real pilot, because Nick took the money out of his own pocket to shoot it. And so we shot that pilot, and then they ordered 8 episodes. And, you know, that was my transition from being on the road to, you know, becoming a producer. And I was just an associate producer on Wildin' Out at the time. You know, and then I worked my way up to, you know, producer to co-EP to EP. And then, you know, they gave me the reins of showrunner in season 7.
Man, I'm gonna tell you one of the biggest lessons I learned from that story. Your uncle, I hosted a Clubhouse one night, the only one I ever done, and you came through. Bentley came through.
Yeah.
And my homeboy.
Another one, Marlon came through too.
Marlon came through.
Marlon came through.
Yeah. It was a good night.
Yeah.
It was good. Great. That shit lasted like 6 hours. I was so tired. I haven't done a Clubhouse since.
I don't think I've been back since myself, because I was like, yo, this was good. You know what I mean? I didn't want it to be bad the next
Right. I'm trying to figure out a way how to do it, but I got to put like a time restraint on it or something.
Yeah,
but
like from this time to this time.
Straight up. But what I learned from these stories are these people, Bentley Kyle Evans, Nick Cannon, Hassan Minaj, they shot their own pilots. They took money out of their own bank account.
Yes.
Shot it, sent it to these networks. It was undeniable. See, when you go into these offices, it's hard for them to imagine what your vision is. Yep. You know, they don't get it. They only are capable typically to compare your vision to someone else's vision. And if it doesn't align to what's already out there, they can't see it. But when you actually go out and shoot it and you're able to show them, yo, this is Wildin' Out. You know, this is my show. This is my show. Then they're like, oh, this is brilliant. You know?
And it's your vision. And the thing about Nick is he has a vision always to this day. Like, he has a clear-cut vision. This is what I want to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And if you do it yourself, no one can really mess with that. They can't come in and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll make the DJ white.
Right.
Or maybe we'll do this. You know, when you do it and you present it to them and you say, this is what it is, then there's no creative messing with and developing. And we developed this thing, you know, we put it on its feet, we shot it, and this is what it is. If you like it, rock with it. If not, we're going to move on to another network. And, you know, that's what I always applaud Nick about. You know, he was like, he had the foresight to be like, yo, we're going to Master P this thing and be independent and just go ahead and go get it. And
boy, did he do it. Did y'all do it. I'm going to tell you something. Spike Lee, I went to Clark Atlanta University. And Spike Lee came to speak to the students. He was actually at Morehouse, but we all kind of connected. Clark, Spelman, Morehouse. So I went over to the Morehouse campus to watch him. And he said something that I never forget. He said the reason why hip hop music is so successful globally is because that's the one art form that doesn't get notes from white people.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Right?
There's no notes from white people on rap music. It's pure.
It's pure. It made perfect sense to me. I'll never forget that. I think I was probably like 20, and I was like, damn.
Yo, that's a gem that's gonna always stick with me. I already know that. Like that's so brilliant for him to say that.
Yeah, man. That's why Spike Lee. But I knew you would appreciate it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was 12 years old. After I saw Do the Right Thing, I went to Samuel French bookstore. I was the second person in line for him to sign my book, man. Like,
wow.
I rode the bus from the hood, got there at 7 a.m. It opened at 9, and boom, he signed my book. I still have that book to this day. I was 12 years old.
Whew, that's amazing.
Yeah, man.
So I want to talk about, how do you all go about selecting the comedians? So I'm sure a lot of people want to know that. A lot of up and coming comedians, they probably want to know, like, what's y'all strategy, or how do you all decide the comedians that you all select for Wildin' Out?
Well, it's usually people who are kind of buzzing. People who are kind of like, you go, oh, I've heard of such and so, or I think that they have that quick-witted spirit, that thing that is going to make them survive on the show, because it's just not for everybody. It's like there are certain comedians who kind of have a slower cadence, and you go like, you're going to get eaten up on this show.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're going to get eaten up, but you run into, you see somebody like a DC Young Fly, and you see him online, and somebody goes, yo, you got to check this dude out. And you're like, oh, he has a gift, so, but before there was social media, the show was out before there was social media.
Yeah.
So there wasn't an Instagram. There was like, maybe MySpace had started, you know what I mean? But people weren't showcasing their talent there. So you would have to have an agent or a manager bring you in for an audition, or Nick would do like an open call or something like that. But now we have Instagram, and the comedians hit me up faithfully all day long. And I answer them, but I will answer them like, yo, what's your following like? I'm looking and you have 1,200 followers. And I go, that means that you haven't proven that you are funny to an audience.
Straight up.
And so I go, we're living in a time where if you are a comedian, you are definitely putting your work out in an arena like this. And I go, once you get your following up, let me know. If there's, and it's not just about your following, it's not about your numbers. It's like, I got to look at your page and laugh.
Right.
So this person is funny. This person is a fit for this show. Because, like I said, just because you're a comedian, you could have 1 million followers, but you can come on the show and catch a smooth brick.
Oh, you can't. Hey, man. So I got, well, you already know one of the stories, but I'm going to tell it since you on here. So, when they was bringing back Wildin' Out, I had made it to like the final round. And this was like when they was bringing it back, not the new bring it back, but I mean when they hired Carlos and Timothy De La Ghetto and all those.
OG bring it back.
Yeah, the OG bring it back. Yeah. So I remember when I auditioned, my audition went cool. I felt pretty good about it. I didn't get selected. But what I felt, part of the reason is exactly what you were saying, was when I looked at some of the other people that got selected, I was like, oh, they social media was bigger than mine at the time. And my thing was, I was kind of buzzing on YouTube a little bit. Some of my stuff would get on World Star, but then I kind of got off social media because I was like, I want to be known as a stand-up comedian. It was at the time, that's when social media first started really kind of taking off.
Yeah.
There was an online versus stand-up comedian battle going on in the streets.
It was an unsaid battle of, I'm a pure comedian.
Straight up.
And you are just an internet guy that says funny stuff and does funny stuff. And the two did not like each other, because that first season, it was not a good vibe with the other comedians and improv stars and these new cats who just used to work at the Piggly Wiggly, and now they got a YouTube page and they got more followers than the
Exactly.
comedians. So it was a war. I remember that time.
See, and so that's what I always remember. So I was like, damn, I was like, man, I need to fucking get back on social media and get my numbers up, you know, because I always felt like that was kind of a reason why I didn't get selected back then. But then, you know, fast forward, you know, y'all let me on the show and stuff like that. So
absolutely. I love the fact that you came on as big dog. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like to me, that's what's even more important when I see people like Tiffany Haddish audition and they wouldn't let me hire her.
Damn.
You know what I mean? And they were like, oh, this is the criteria why we don't want, and I was like, you're crazy, but it's really not up to me all the time.
Right.
And so, you know, I love it when somebody who auditioned for the show, possibly either they made it or didn't, and then they come back and we go, you're a special guest now, or you are the guest now. Like, to me, that is the best story ever when it was like, oh man, like, because I remember deciding between, I was like, yo, we have to figure out if we're going to go with this person or Justin. I remember that.
Right.
And I was like, and the network is leaning like, following. That was the big thing. Right. And we were like, but one, he's the homie. We saw him come up since he was
right.
getting high. Like,
right.
And it was like, we had to, it was just a hard thing. But then, you know, what I love about it is like, you were like, cool. All right, this wasn't the time. And then boom, now we calling you like, hey, Justin, you think you want to come down and play some games with us? And I want to say you passed one time. You was like, nah, I'm good.
No. I'm trying to think if I did, but if I ever did, it's probably because I was just filming something.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. But that's what I love. It's like, you're doing things and you're out in the world. You're killing it right now. And you weren't, you know, messed up by any of that. You were like, cool, this is just another thing that maybe I didn't get, but now they're going to come back and they're going to want me later.
Yeah, straight up. Cause you know, somebody like me, man, I see all of that stuff as fuel, you know? Yeah. So when stuff like that happens, that makes me get on my grind even more. That made me want to get funnier. That made me want to grow my brand, you know, yeah. and that's how that pushed me. And that's the difference between, you know, a lot of people. Some people use rejection or failure, quote unquote, they use that to get bitter.
Yeah.
And then there's other people that use it as motivation to get better.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of just the cloth that I come from. That's what I wanted to ask you about, man. How do you handle? Well, there's two questions. Have you seen a comedian? You don't got to say who the comedian is. Have you seen a comedian change being on the show? Meaning they come on kind of humble, and then ego get the best of them with them being on the show.
I've had to deal with a couple of egos, but here's what I'll say to that is, you know, especially like those first season OGs that came back and started, and they're, you know, they were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and happy to be on. And, you know, season after season, you have to go, okay, well, they're making a little bit more money and they're getting some stardom, their fame is up and they're feeling themselves. And so, you know, I try to be the coach, and I'm like, I'm Phil Jackson.
Right.
So I got this team, and, you know, they used to be rookies, but now they're stars, and I have to treat them that way. And, you know, and sometimes, you know, the network will treat them like, okay, these are still rookies. And I go, no. Did you see 85 South sell out that arena?
Right.
No, it's different. Like, we have to treat, you know, these guys like stars, but you know, you do deal with the egos now. You do deal with the, I don't want to do this. And you got, and you know, for as a producer, I have to kind of respect that, you know, and either shed some perspective as to why we'd like them to do that, or go, hey, you know, he doesn't feel like he wants to do that, so, you know, he's not going to do it. Right. You know, and I respect that. I respect people's growth. You know what I mean? There was a time when I used to get coffee, and then, you know, now someone's getting me coffee. So I have to respect that. And I hopefully I don't have any stories of when I, you know, had to go off, or, you know, there's a million stories about me going off, but there's a million of those. but I hope that people know that I treat them with respect, and they treat me with respect, and I hope that I don't have to deal with the big time, yeah, you motherfuckers, and da-da-da-da. But I have had to calm some people down a few times.
Right, you're a big dude, first of all, so I don't know why anybody would want to get into it with you, because you look like you were slaying somebody across the room.
Man, listen, even in workshops, I push people really, really hard in those workshops, and I don't try to tear an ego down, but I go, I'll let people know, like, I don't really care about your following when you come into here. Like,
right.
I don't care how many people love you. I care about, are you going to make people laugh? Because this is my job that I have to protect. And so I kind of go like, look, we're all in the same playing field until you show me different. Show me you're a star, because, and I used to say, especially when a lot of those, Instagrammers started coming in here, or, YouTubers, I was still like, TV's where you want to be. Like, and now it's a shift.
It is a
you
shift.
know what I mean? It's a shift.
See,
and
I got my podcast.
Yeah, right. It's like, and now you have a voice, which is dope. And so, it's hard to deal with, people who are getting bigger in their stardom, but you hopefully you have a relationship with them to where they sit you down and say, hey man, look, I'm not trying to be like this, but I feel like I should get this. I know that these people over here will do this for that. And I go, all right, cool. I got to be an advocate for you. You know what I mean?
So you made well. This is another one of them two parts, which is one. How do you all go about deciding who you all renew their contracts? Like, how do you decide? Like, I'm gonna bring this comedian back, or we only gonna let this comedian do this one season?
Nick usually is like, it's kind of the other way. It's like, we're good with our cast, we're good with our team, and who are we going to let go? And if you like, what'll happen is you'll see somebody in the opening sequence of like, oh, starring such and so, starring such and so, and if you see that person but you don't see them in the game, like, you can literally disappear on the show.
Yep.
And we won't see you until you just standing next to somebody in the wild style at the end, and you have said nothing, And so it comes down to, were you funny to the crowd? Did your joke make the show? And if it's like any team sport, if you're not putting up buckets, you're not, you
gotta produce.
Yeah, and I got to put somebody else in the game that's going to come in and get buckets. And we give a lot of these opportunities. And sometimes we'll keep people for a couple of seasons to see if they produce. And then, we have to sometimes cut ties and go, hey, maybe this isn't the right thing. But, the show is going to eventually evolve, as it has evolved from the first iteration of it in the first 4 seasons to now. And then, we're going to have to start graduating people, and new people are going to become the stars of the show. And, so it's an evolutionary cycle, but it's tough to let people go. Trust me. I have to make those calls, and I like to make them personally, because I don't want it to just be like, oh, we're just not inviting you back, and you hearing, oh, everybody's going back. I like to call them and say, hey, we're not going to renew you. If they ask for a reasoning, they more than likely they know. I wasn't putting the numbers.
You wasn't funny, nigga. That's why we let your ass go.
What it is sometimes. And,
get back on Instagram and TikTok and get your shit together.
Yeah, or they get too cocky. You know what I mean? They get too cocky, and then you go, and Nick is probably one of the most humble dudes ever. So if he says you getting cocky, he starts going, yo, your man over there is getting a little beside himself, and I go, oh, okay, well, let me put him on this one list. So, and
down in the book.
Yeah, but I tell people all the time, I'm like, Wildin Down's not the end all be all. It's one show. It's a great platform, but it's not for everybody. You know what I mean? Everyone's not meant to flourish on this thing. But if you can find a way to get in, listen, I want to play in the NBA too. I want to play in on the Lakers, but I probably won't get no minutes. It's the people who can come in and, like, DC Young Fly was like the first person who came in as a freshman and started every game. You know,
Right.
like just a phenom. Just he's our LeBron James. You
Yo,
know,
when I tell people about, man, so y'all been filming in Atlanta the past few seasons, and when I went there to just be like, when I be a guest on the show, DC came out last. It's almost like, I don't know if he showed up late on purpose or if this is something that y'all do. I don't know if it's planned.
nope, he was just late.
He was just late. When I tell you, when they said this dude name, you would have thought goddamn Eddie Murphy had made his return.
Yes.
I had net, bruh. I only see energy like that for comedians, for Kevin Hart, you know, when they're not expecting him, or Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. I was like, like, I already knew he was big, but
when
that's
he walks in the building, it's crazy. It's like the whole room changes, and you just be like, yo. I remember when I could walk down the street and didn't nobody know him, but people are like, oh my God, it's DC. It's beyond, like, the energy just changes in the room when as soon as he walks out, right? You'd be like, who just came in here?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, yeah, you thinking it's Chappelle or Eddie Murphy. Oh, I'm gonna tell you, that's the other person. Martin Lawrence. That's the other person. When I still feel like Martin Lawrence, anytime I've seen someone announce Martin Lawrence is coming to the stage, that might be the biggest reaction. That in DC, in Atlanta.
Yes. DC in Atlanta is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Man, so I don't know. You may not want to speak on this, and if you don't trip, because I wanted to ask, what was the situation with the Carlos situation? Because I remember just watching the Breakfast Club interview, and it sounded like Carlos was saying they're not renewing my contract, and then basically they called Nick, and then Nick was like, "Nah, I mean, we good or whatever," and then Nick, and it sounded like that phone call helped save Carlos's job.
You know, I hate to speak on other people's, you know, job. I think it was a consensus of, you know, it was probably time for Carlos to graduate.
Gotcha.
It wasn't like, you know, sometimes people, you feel like they get a little too big for the show, and you go, all right, cool. You know, they're doing other things, and, you know, we don't want to stop anybody from getting any money. And, you know, Carlos is a huge part of our show, and I love him. I think he's one of the funniest comedians to ever come through our show.
For sure.
But, you know, sometimes things don't always work out, and, you know, and you know, what I love about the show is there's a revolving door. You know what I mean? And it was like, you know, we definitely missed him, you know, when he wasn't there. And, you know, and luckily we had the opportunity to bring him back into the fold. And, you know, I think things are better now. And I think things have, you know, I don't think he has any hard feelings on it. Sometimes it's business. It's not personal. You know what I mean? And sometimes it is personal.
Right. Straight up.
You know,
you like keeping it 1,000.
Yeah, you know, and you know, that's just part of the business. You know what I mean? And, you know, sometimes I have to make those hard calls, and, you know, I had to let a couple of people go that I didn't want to do. And, you know, oftentimes it's budgetary, you know, sometimes it's personality, sometimes it's budget. Sometimes people are like, yo, I want a ton of money, and you go, we're not going to do that.
Right.
You know, we you know, and you know, we got to cut 3 people out so that we could afford you. And I'm not saying that was the case with Carlos at all.
Right.
But it was definitely not an easy call to make to somebody, you know, who you love and you consider family, and is a big part of the show. And you know, but it was a great moment. Like, I don't know if you saw that episode where we brought him back.
Yeah, I saw it.
We completely surprised the cast. No one knew, and, you know, he came through, and you know, and he solidified himself back in the fold. And, you know, and like I said, you know, I'm so proud of him and DC and Carlo. I mean, and Chico for what they've done with 85 South. And it's just, you know, it's just dope to see these guys elevate. You know?
Absolutely, man. They killing the game. When did you know? Oh no, I want to talk about this first. So Wildin Down is coming back. That's, you know. Even that, man, I was gonna try to get down there. I was filming MacGyver. I was gonna try to slide and get on the show, man, because you told me I could come through. And then
yeah. This season we're actually gonna film in a bubble in Los Angeles. We're gonna be
Oh,
yeah. So we've taken it out of Atlanta, and we're gonna be back in LA, but we're gonna film it in a bubble.
when y'all
So
doing that?
June.
Oh, I'm gonna have to pull up to that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to pull up to
yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, you're gonna have to quarantine for a few days with us if you do, because
Hey man, I do that.
it's
I'm
the
a,
NBA bubble like that. So no one leaves and no one comes in. So
but it's
you
only what, like 14 days or something. How long y'all gonna be in the bubble?
from start to finish about 18 days.
I could do that.
There
I
you
could do
there you go.
that.
There you go. There you go.
But okay, how did y'all get the show back on the air? That's what I want to talk about. What was those conversations? Were you involved in those conversations to get it
You
back on the
know,
air?
I wasn't. That was all of Nick's magic, and the whatever happened between his podcast and what they felt was not right, and Nick had the wherewithal to go into the situation and go, hey, maybe I did make a mistake, maybe I said something that offended people, you know and maybe I need to find out from that community what the issue is. And he delved deep into the community of the Jewish community, and really did a deep dive into trying to understand and learn, that the culture of what he said and why people were offended. And I think with him doing that work, and Viacom, we always saw like MTV as this progressive company,
Right.
that has embraced a lot of things, and so they opened the doors up to revisiting after Nick went and did his journey into that community to understand what was right and what was wrong.
After them ratings declined too. They was like, on second thought, maybe we should
I
open
mean,
this door back open.
there's only so many episodes of ridiculousness you can watch.
But that was the thing. Hey, bro, straight up, but we all know this. MTV has two shows. They have Ridiculousness and Wildin' Out.
Yeah.
When you take Wildin' Out off, you have now cut 50% of your content. You can't do that. You got your black show and you got your white show. It's America. I mean, MTV is America.
Yeah, and in a time with COVID, comedy is what's needed. Comedy is healing, and and for comedy shows to go away, especially being able to go to them, but to take one off the air that brings so much joy to so many people who are dealing with the COVID, but the trauma of all the social injustice. Like, it's a thing that I'm proud to be a part of this show, because it's healing, but I'm glad that they decided to bring it back, because I think it's needed in a time where people are hurting and people need to laugh to stop from crying.
When did you all know that you all were big enough to take the tour and start selling out these huge venues in arenas?
There was a college tour that we did initially, and it was actually we recorded the whole thing, and it was like Wildin' on tour, and it was just a college tour, and these venues were packed. And I know Rip Michaels, who has a big part to do with booking, like a lot of these arenas.
Shout out to Rip Michaels, man, good dude.
Great dude. And he got with Nick, and I think he presented like, yo man, we could do an arena. And he kind of finagled his way into opening up an arena for one of these things, for one of these shows, and sold it out. Ooh. And so I think the next year that they were going to go out, it was like, yo, we can book these arenas now. And because we already did it, we have proof of work. And they sold out these arenas, and I didn't go to any of the shows until it came to Staples Center, and I was like, yo, Staples Center is sold out? Like where Kobe plays, like in my hometown. So what was mind-blowing is walking into the Staples Center, and people are it's packed. It's sold out show in the Staples Center for a show you helped, get off the ground, and you just go like, wow, it was mind blowing to me. It was like, you know, if my son wasn't sitting right next to me, I probably would have shed a tear because it was so mind blowing to see. And I was like, yo, we're in the Staples Center and they're playing Wildin' Out games and doing like Rick Ross is performing, and I was just like, it was mind blowing. And so, you know, unfortunately, you know, they were on tour when everyone found the news out, like, yo, everybody's got to come off tour. So it was like they had to cut the tour short. So, you know, I think
when the show got pulled from the air.
Yeah, when everything was it? No, I think it was COVID first.
Oh, okay.
I think it was COVID when they started shutting things down.
Oh, got you. Okay, got you.
And then so it was, you know, but you know, things are going to open back up and get back going, but you know, it was crazy to see going from the small college tour to arenas, and it's mind blowing to see.
Wow, you know? Man. Hey, so this is what I want to ask you about. For the Love of Ray J.
Oh man.
I used to love For the Love of Ray J. Yeah. That seemed like every single man's dream. You just got a bunch of bad women doing Lord knows what to get your attention.
Yeah.
How was it working on that show?
I'll tell you, I went to set one time. So this is what happened. 51 Minds, it was just 51 Minds. It was no Endemol then. Nick and I had done a pilot with that company, and Mark Cronin was the executive producer. He's one of the owners of 51 Minds, and we hit it off, and so we did a pilot. The pilot didn't work, but I knew he had done the Flavor Flav one. You know what I mean? And all
another classic TV series.
Yeah. And he's like they're the godfathers of like reality television. Like it's crazy. So I played in the NBA E-League. And I played in the NBA E-League, and and Ray J was on my team. And I was like, yo, Ray. No, I think I was playing against Ray J. And I said, hey, Ray, I said, would you ever want to do one of them Flavor of Love type shows? And he was like, yeah, let's talk about it. So we met on.
What made you think to ask him that question?
Because the Kim stuff was still hot.
Oh,
you know what I mean? The Kim stuff had just kind of just started dying down. I was like, you know, this might be a good opportunity for a guy like Ray, you know, who's still in it, but I just saw him as like, he would be the perfect guy. He's, you know, super charismatic, just a great dude, great musician. And I was like, you know, this might work. And I was like, and at the time, you know, Nick was off in Mariahville.
Oh, gotcha.
And I was a man with no country for a while. I was, you know what I mean?
Oh, you mean you was happy is what you mean. You was happy. You was happy out here.
Yeah, and Wildin' Out was over in the 4th season. So I'm trying to survive. I'm like, yo, I got to figure this thing out. So I was like, yo, man, would you be interested in this? And he was like, yeah, let's talk. So we met on Sunset. And yeah, me, him, and JoJo Ryder, we all sat down and we talked about it. And I was like, if you're in, I'll set up the meeting. So I set up the meeting over at 51 Minds, and literally it was just walked in. We pitched our version of a show that ended up turning into the Bret Michaels show, but
right.
About that.
Exactly. You know how they do us.
Yeah, and so they were like, yeah, thanks for your pitch, but here's what we want to do with you. We want to do like the Flavor Flav Ray of Love, because we had pitched it on a tour bus, the whole night, right? And so it was literally like a week later, and they were like, cool, we're going into this deal. We want you to be, you know, consulting producer on it, and you know, we're gonna give you a check. And I was like, okay.
Straight up.
But let me tell you something. That got me through like literally a year of like not working. You know what I mean? And then it was like, as soon as the money was running out, it was like, yo, we're gonna do another season. And I was like, oh, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, so they had to run me another check, and I was like, man, that like got me through some really tough times.
Man, okay, well so you had a lady during that time, huh? Or you were single during that time?
I think I don't remember. But I knew I couldn't show up to that set.
Right, because you said you only went there one time. I said you must have had a lady. I seen the wedding ring on your face. I said because my follower's question was yes it was did you smash any of the women he passed on? But no, I don't think you did.
Never. One thing I don't do is mix work and pleasure. You know, like I'm sure that question was like, wow, now girls all of a sudden. Never. Like I try not to even talk to them or look at them. I just be like, hey, how you doing? You know, because the last thing you want is someone to say something that you do, or just even accuse you of anything. So
straight up, no, I agree 1,000%. I don't even compliment women anymore. You know,
yeah, it's hard. It's hard
because I don't want it to be no confusion, no misunderstanding. You know, so I just say, hey, how you doing, and keep it moving.
Keep it moving. That's what you do.
And you can fuck around and say how you doing the wrong way and get caught up, you know.
Your inflections might be wrong.
Yeah, how you doing?
How you doing?
Right. Like,
you know?
Yeah, I don't want no problems. What's the biggest lesson that you feel like you've learned in the industry so far?
That rap music is rap music because there's no notes from white people.
Straight up.
Ask me a question again. I'm so sorry.
Straight up.
I couldn't help it. You said, what is the best lesson I've learned?
Yeah, or biggest lesson that you've learned in the industry?
The biggest lesson I've learned is to always be you, and don't compromise. I mean, you can compromise a little bit, but don't compromise your integrity. And if you trust somebody, you want other people to trust you. You know what I mean? And so like with Nick, I trust everything he wants to do. And even if I don't see it, I go, cool, this dude has a vision and he wins. So you want to go into the fire, we're going to go into the fire. So that's how I move. I find someone you trust and rock with them.
Absolutely, bro. And yeah, last one. Who some of the up and coming comedians that you think are funny out there?
Oh man, it's been so long since I've seen comedy.
I feel you,
man. Like it's really tough to say right now. I can't even I can't remember the last time I went to a comedy show. But I see a lot of people online. There's that dude Drewski. He's a funny dude. There's people online like that may not have worked on the show. Like there's Doughboy. There's there's Watts. These are
Hey, did y'all mess with Ryan Davis? Y'all messing with him?
Listen, I love Ryan Davis. I think Ryan Davis is I think he's a talented guy.
Because he was on the Clubhouse that night, I remember. He was,
and we've talked about him being on the show, and I think that when we're not in the bubble, we should give him a look and invite him to a workshop to see if it's a right fit.
Right.
I've told him, I've said it publicly, like
you have.
I don't know. I don't know. Like it's just like I said, I don't think it's for everybody, but I would love for someone to come in and prove me wrong and not get eaten up and then go, destroy DC. And I go, oh, okay, well, there you go.
Hey, it's a gladiator sport, man. I've been to that. It's an arena for real. It's a comedy gladiator arena, and you can't come. I realized that going there, like, y'all don't mess around. The comedians not messing around. They coming for blood, yo.
Yes.
And if you not prepared, your ass gonna get eaten alive.
Quick.
Simple. It is what it is, man. Hey, any final things you want to say before we get out of here?
Nah, man, just, I'm just so proud to see you doing your thing, man. It's just, to see you from just being in the little comedy clubs to on the big screen, and then you buying houses and all that. I just love to see where you're going in your career, man. And I know this is just the beginning, man. So I'm just proud of you, and I thank you for inviting me on your podcast and considering me to be in that legendary category.
Straight up, bro. Like I said, I started this to celebrate people I feel like are living legends and making legendary moves, man. You a king out here, bro. I just want you to continue doing your things, set precedents, continue to be great, man. I can't wait to see the other projects you have. And, I'm always a phone call. Well, do you got my number? I'm always a DM.
I always find you.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
I always find you.
Anytime you need me, man, holler at me, bro. And I'm there, man. So I appreciate you for even doing this and giving me your time, today.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No doubt, man. Peace. Sway, sway.